Interviews are worthless. They're fake, they're way over-edited, and the answers are just focus group tested talking points. But every once in a while, we get a good one. Last year, we saw one of the wildest interviews in years. It was exciting, it was unscripted, it was authentic to the point of being uncomfortable. Guess it just takes someone with more FU money than God to actually give a good interview. It was Elon interviewed by the BBC, and he kind of embarrassed the interviewer. And then the internet celebrated by dancing on the BBC's grave, which was weird. But what I want to know is, where did that energy come from? And was it justified? Well, let's examine the logic. Okay, let's set this up. James Clayton, tech reporter for the BBC, interviewed Elon 6 months after he took over Twitter in their San Francisco headquarters. If you're new to the channel, I don't examine politics, I examine logic. And in this video, I'm primarily focusing on Clayton's logic, which comes to us in this deliciously layered candy bar of fallacies. Definitely stay tuned to the end for the fallacy nugget at the center. It's the best part. Okay, let's take our first bite. So what did James Clayton do to wake up the beast? The cause of the friction is Clayton's accusation that since Elon acquired Twitter, he invited more hate speech onto the platform. No big deal. No, that's a big deal. Imagine if someone said to you, hey, since you came to work today, you increased hate speech on planet Earth by 12.5%. Sorry? And that's our first conclusion.
You know, we have spoken to people who have been sacked that used to be in content moderation, and they just say, there's not enough people to police this stuff, particularly around hate speech. Is that
what hate speech are you talking about?
Now, Clayton is doing what journalists do. They find a source, and they find a corroborating source, and they verify. That's usually good enough to publish, but in this case, he's taking it directly to the source's former boss. Elon doesn't care that this is journalism in action. Instead, he feels as if it's an anecdotal evidence fallacy, which is reasoning that uses an isolated example, like a personal experience, instead of comprehensive evidence to base an argument. The fault of this reasoning is that it's too small of a sample size to render a reliable conclusion. That's especially so if your sample size consists of disgruntled workers who were recently fired by Elon Musk. Clayton is conducting proper journalism, but from Elon's perspective, this is an incomplete and faulty dataset. Okay, next layer, same conclusion.
You see more hate speech personally?
There are many organizations that say that that kind of information is on the rise. Now, whether it has on my feed or not, Strategic Dialogue Institute in the UK, they will say that. So
look, people will say all sorts of nonsense.
Elon believes that you can always find someone who thinks the thing that confirms what you want to prove. The fallacy that Elon believes that he is witnessing is called a Spotlight Fallacy, which is to focus attention on an isolated example of X and create a narrative that X is representative of the whole. The media has the unique power to create a narrative of its choosing. The Spotlight Fallacy says that this is a distortion of reality and only a projection of its own bias. When the Strategic Dialogue Institute says there has been a rise in hate speech on Twitter, it feels as if they form their argument like they're talking about old media, as if they're dealing with an edition of a newspaper and they say, see? There's hate speech here, here, and here. But Twitter isn't like that. Twitter is a hyper-complex idea ecosystem whose algorithm creates a unique experience for each user. Sure, there's more hate speech on Twitter. And also, maybe most users never see that hate speech. Both of those things can be true. There's another meta-fallacy haunting us here, and it's called the moving goalpost fallacy, which is to change the criteria of success as someone is attempting to make that criteria. Let's try to define the goal here. What is an acceptable amount of hate speech on Twitter? To many people, there is no amount that is acceptable. I think fans of Elon and Twitter see this as an unwinnable game. And that's where this crazy backlash came from. Like, do a search on YouTube on this interview, and the times you see the words destroyed BBC comes up a lot. And for whatever reason, it all seems to be from conservatives. But check this out, this is fascinating. If you look at legacy media, it's a different story. Like, look at the political bias distribution in print media. You can see that the vast majority of print outlets that covered this are actually liberal, very different than YouTube. I love this data visualization. How did I get this data? I got it from a company that I'm very excited exists. It's also today's sponsor, Ground News. This just in, some of the media want to manipulate us. Shocking. If you're like me, you care deeply about thinking critically. To accomplish that though, we need good data in order to make sound decisions. Ground News is a one-of-a-kind platform that does just that. By aggregating 50,000 news sources in one place and then visualizing the data behind those sources in a really useful way. They use third-party sources to assess things like political bias, factual reliability, and ownership. Then they visualize and rank that bias, factuality, and ownership for each story. Like here's what they did for the Elon BBC story. I've been using Ground News for some time now, and it's a game changer. So I'm excited to share that Ground News is giving viewers of my channel 15% off their Vantage plan, which gives you access to all of these features. There's a link below in the description. It will help support the channel, and you will get 15% off their best plan. When I see people celebrating Elon destroying the BBC, I get that. People feel as if they've been burnt by the media. The business of news sucks, but journalism as a pursuit of understanding our world does not suck. Oftentimes it is the first touch point in building the data of our reality, and we need that data in order to think logically. I really like Ground News, and if you would like to check it out, then click on the link below in the description and get yourself 15% off the Vantage plan and access to all of these features that I'm talking about. Okay, we've eaten our way through the outer layers and we've found the core nugget of Clayton's logical position.
But you accept there has to be a line in terms of hate speech.
There it is. Did you see it? The fallacy that we're seeing here is an extremely difficult one to spot, and that's what makes it so deadly. And it is the political correctness fallacy. And that is a subversive form of thought control where ideas are said to be false simply because they have been labeled politically incorrect. Okay, time out. Being politically correct is a legitimate and necessary means of being respectful. And also, political correctness can be weaponized to herd people into pre-approved groupthink that is non-threatening to elites, while excluding ideas that are true and important but are dangerous to those elites. When political correctness is weaponized, this is how it works. You have an ecosystem of ideas that range the spectrum of the human experience. A line snakes through that ecosystem, dividing it in two. This is the line that divides political correctness, dictating what is acceptable and what we are not allowed to talk about. What's fascinating is that this line is guarded by regular people. It's social coercion weaponized as an offensive tactic. Elon thinks here that this is what he's experiencing. The accusation that he's welcoming hate speech onto Twitter is a very potent form of social coercion. Political correctness becomes thought control when those powers redraw the line to include or exclude something that they don't want us to fully explore. And that line is redrawn all the time. But with the right tools, we can see when that's happening and escape their thought control, no matter where it's coming from. And Ground News is a great tool to do that. So check out the link in the description to save 15% on the Vantage plan. Okay, that's a logical review from Elon's perspective. I really want to do one from James Clayton's perspective. Let's just say Elon's logic is a bit messy. These videos take a long time to make, so I'm only going to do that if you want to see it, so let me know in the comments below. Okay, thanks. And subscribe to improve your logic.